Hi, welcome to, I have no idea what episode we're on, but this is The Loud Lens. This will go on YouTube and on the podcast. So listen to where you listen to it all. And I am joined by, well, should we call you Kerri, or what name would you like to be known by today? Because you have quite a few usernames, don't you?
Well, if you're Irish, it's Sierra.
Okay.
If it's English, it's Kerri.
Okay.
Howdy.
Howdy. Okay. So we've spoken about this in great length, but this is about being more than a label when it comes to photography, in particular in your case, because you are autistic.
Well, I'm an ADHD,
that's
autistic and ADHD. I've got the best of both worlds, but it's not Hannah Montana.
Okay, so we are doing it more than a label. Yeah, that's what we're going for. The more than a label, because I know that we've spoken, and I'll let you get into this, but you have felt like sometimes that's being used quite heavily for not the best reasons at times.
Yeah, it's like I detest the word. Just for me, not for anybody else. I'm not saying anyone else with autism, ADHD, the latter. For me, I detest the word superpower and gift because I have struggled in life in many things, and to me, it's not a superpower. It's held me back from things. So I just want to clear that there now in the air, in the open air.
Okay, so let's talk about your photographic journey specifically.
Well, to make a long story short.
You can make it long if you want, mate.
Basically, how I got into photography back in my 20s, I know I'm old, past the sell-by date,
I think I'm older than her.
That lot, yellow sticker. But no, I basically lived in Harrogate, Yorkshire, when I was in the eye to a girls' health, I still am now. And I was 17, and basically what happened, how I got onto photography, I went and did a childcare course, but they said to me, because you don't have natural periods, we don't want you. And then I ended up a week later going down the corridor for photography. Lo and behold, dun, dun, dun.
You're now a photographer, but you do film photography and digital, don't you? But
I do more mobile and film photography these days.
Yeah. But I just want to say, you did actually get into quite a big award, didn't you? Let's just talk about that really briefly.
What, my shortlisted self-portrait of me, which I did in lockdown. With my,
what award did you get, though? Were you nominated for?
Oh, I think it was like self-portrait. I can't remember. I've got brain fog.
That's all right. But it was quite a big award, wasn't it? You had to go all the way down to the
London.
Tate Modern.
Yeah, with social anxiety. I was like, ah!
But you did good. So I just want to get to it. You obviously say you've identified that you've autism and ADHD and some other things.
A lot of things. All day.
Your words. How do you think it's influenced your work as a photographer? Do you think, how have you, be it a positive, negative? I don't want to really put words in your mouth, but.
I have these analogies that are like, I have a Vincent van Gogh brain, and basically.
Don't cut your ear off, mate.
No, I see the visuals. It's like Temple Grandin, the one that's like an advocate and an animal welfare person. And basically, she sees things before they happen, and that's what happens in my photography. I'm a visual thinker. I see pictures before they happen and colours, a bit like Van Gogh. So, that's how it's helped me creatively.
Do you think it's impacted your approach to photography then? Because when you go out to, say, you go to learn or you go and experience other photographers, do you feel like you are learning in such a different way? It's not always the same way as everybody else, or? I
don't know. It's like, because my process is slower and having a double whammy of autism and ADHD, I can pick up things easily, but then there's other times I can't. And then I'm not quick to the post and people are like, oh, she's holding us back. And you'll get that in a lot of companies. They're like, we don't want to employ you because such and such.
Have you, talking about this, so you obviously say you've got a unique perspective. You said, like, that's kind of how you look at it. Do you want people to understand more about you? Because obviously we've spoken at great length. I know loads about you, but like you said at the start of this, you have a very unique perspective on your ADHD and autism and how it impacts your life, because everyone's very different. Yeah, so it's quite hard to be.
I can't speak on somebody else's experience, and I don't want to, because it's not my story. And if they want to see it as a superpower, if they want to see it as this, that's cool. But I'm an advocate for a reason. I speak up on rights. I speak up on many things. I'm blunt as you. And I won't hold back.
I think you might be blunter. I think that's why we get on. I think that's what it is. What do you think then? And I want to be really careful that I don't impose, because I know a lot about you and we've shot together quite a lot and we've hung out a lot together. I don't want
6 years.
I know. I don't want it to be like how I see it. So for me, as a person having you there, I don't see it as an issue. Like, that's not even the right word. I don't see it as an inconvenience or a thing. Like, you're just Kerri in my group. and that's it. But you've experienced different, haven't you? You've experienced it.
Because autism is a brain thing and it's not a disability you can see. It's like you can't see it on us. It's not like somebody with a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like with us, it's like you can't see it. And people just think, oh, you're dandy, you're fine, you're grand with the world. And it's not. It's like my inner internal feelings and the ableism that I get from people really grates it, out of me.
Can you, without, I don't want to trigger you, so if you don't have to talk about it, but the ableism, have you come across that quite a lot in the photographic world?
I have. A lot.
Yeah. Is any experience you can share, or only if you're comfortable? Obviously, you don't have to. I want to preface that. I'm not about to trigger you or other people.
There's certain, I'm not going to say...
Don't say names.
I'm not going to say names, but there's certain places where I've gone with my diploma and gone, okay, I'm autistic, and they've seen that as me, like, do you know what I mean? In a defence of like, oh, she's probably going to do better than us. And I've been turned down for said jobs because they're afraid that I'm going to do better than them. And I don't think like that. I don't have that in my brain. I'm just me at the end of the day. Like Freddie Mercury says, I'm just me. I'm no better than else, less or more, whatever. No, I couldn't care less.
So do you think there's a lot of misunderstood misconceptions around creatives who have self-identified? Obviously, I don't think you should ever ask anybody these questions if they've got ADHD or autism. Who people who've told people, do you think suddenly lots of people have misconceptions? I know society definitely does. I've witnessed that with you. And it angers me when I'm with you and it happens.
Well, being an advocate, there's many people in my community where they've had to disclose their autism, and when they do, they won't employ them. And when you don't disclose it, it's like, oh, that's why you're a bit quirky. And I hate that bloody word. I'm sorry. I hate that word. I am not quirky. I'm not, anything like that. It's like people think of Rain Man because we've been misconcepted in TV shows. It's like somebody's going to drop matchsticks and I'm going to count. I'll be like, nah, you pick them up, mate, not me.
I know we had this week about, is it Sheldon Cooper? You have like is it Big Bang Theory? I know we've had this discussion. On that note, and this is something we have talked about, and I know this is going to be the controversial, if not already the controversial point of this, your feelings on the tokenism of people with ADHD and autism both being lauded and applauded. You have struggled with seeing that in the photographic world especially, haven't you?
I have.
From our discussions.
There's one thing on Reddit where this autism photographer, where she had it or not, I don't know. I'm not a practitioner, I can't say. But I do think self-diagnosis is valid, by the way. But she was like, I can't get photos to clients because I've got autism. And that's what really pees me off, because it's like autism is not an excuse or a get out of jail free card to use as you wish. And it's like, if you couldn't do these photos or weddings for people, then you should have never got in the industry and you should have sorted your health out and managed it better before you started that.
I will say, I will bring this up. This is, I'm going to not add names because I don't think it's fair to send any more drama to this individual. There was a wedding photographer who did lots of weddings and then disappeared off the face of the earth, and then was found again on TikTok, living her best life, sharing stuff. And then when she was confronted, she became more reclusive and changed how she could communicate. Do you remember this? We were talking about this, weren't we? And I felt like, okay, it's hard to negotiate or navigate that situation, because as a service provider, you have a legal obligation as your client, but also the mitigating circumstances that she had autism and other issues that prevented her. But people couldn't differentiate between the fact that she was happy to go online and chat and talk, but couldn't send an email. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. And it was you that sort of spoke up a little bit about this thing about task avoidance.
I actually spoke on her Instagram. I actually did a long worded thing because, like I said, I'm an advocate and I will speak out and I don't care.
And what was your view on what she was doing? Like, I know, like, no, that's too pointed. That's too pointed. What was your view on the fact that, do you think people were more compassionate, or did you think it did damage to it? Because I know from my other friends who were autistic, they said it did damage to them, because she was using the fact she was autistic to not do the job, which they understood, but you still then have to put parameters in if you run a business, if you do experience
it gives us a bad name, because people like that use their autism as an excuse, or their behaviour or how they treat people. It gives us lovely ones a bad name, and then we're spilled all over the media like, oh no, you don't want to employ an autistic because of this said person here who was a photographer. And And with autism, it's like...
This is something I don't understand, this whole idea of not employing someone because they're autistic, right? Because I know many people who have employed people who don't identify as autistic, who are absolute toss bags, and it doesn't stop anyone employing those kind of people.
I think it's because we have like burnouts. It's like, and we need more reasonable adjustments. And obviously it's on their insurance, and it's like they don't want that, because if I don't say to him, oh, I've got autism, and I end up walking out and bolting because I've got crippling social anxiety, they'll go, why has Kerri left work then? And if I do disclose that, they're like, oh, no, she's too hard. We don't want that on the books.
I felt really sorry for this photographer. I felt she was in a completely sticky wicket. There was no right or wrong way, but whatever happened, it kept exasperating the situation for her. The more she didn't respond, the more people got angry. And I saw people on both sides of the spectrum really angry. And I just kind of sat in the middle and I reached out and said, do you want me to edit the pictures for you? But even then, and it's a very complicated situation. I offered to help her with her photography, to help her out. She didn't want to do that. And the whole situation exasperated. But then people were talking about in the wedding groups saying they don't want to hire someone who might have that. And I think it had a huge negative impact. And it was really hard. Wasn't it? It was awful, you know, because there are incredible photographers out there who are very open about having autism and ADHD. And suddenly people were like saying, oh no, they're never going to do your wedding. And there's people who have this and have been running very successful businesses, suddenly having to justify their business. And it was awful. It's blinking awful. But moving away from that slightly, the bit that I know we spoke at great length, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I'm sorry. Do you want to see more genuine acceptance rather than token acceptance? Well,
yeah, it's like, you know, like I'm going to out this here. This National Autistic Society, right? All they mention is kids and not adults, right? When you're late to parties like me, I was late to 2 parties of diagnoses. I had no help since 2017, right? And these are National Autistic Society basically don't have autistic people working for them. It's neurotypical people. I've got nothing against neurotypical. There's one there. But
not really.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, and that's the thing with the tokenism, like, oh, autistic at this, and they do autism awareness every month. And it's like, yeah, you've got it for a month. I've got it for life. It's with me till I am pushing up daisies. Do you know what I mean? So that really irritates me. And then when you see, oh, we've got these hours in the shop, and it's like some kids with autism, like, especially my niece, are not up at that time. Like, who's going to be up between 9 and 3? I don't even go out after 3 because I hate like the school kids coming out, and it's like, no thanks, I'd rather not.
So bring it back to the photography side. I know we've spoken about this. I keep mentioning this, spoken about this. You get quite put out when you see people using their diagnosis, self or otherwise, to kind of use it to project themselves further when you necessarily don't agree with what they're doing. I'm trying to be very careful because I don't want it to look like I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm very careful I use the right language. But I know that you've spoken out a few times about the fact that people have used it as an excuse as to why, I don't know if excuse is the right word, but have used it in a way to get ahead or get more accolade when it's not justified. I can't really, do you know?
I don't know, it's a hard one to explain when you're not autistic. It's really hard. And like I say, if that person wants to use it to further them, fair enough. But it's like, you can't do that. It's like, in my eyes, you can't. It's like, you know, you have to work your way up. And that's what I did when I started out, you know, when I lived in the Worcester bubble.
What do you feel like when you see people who do exhibitions and they say, oh, I'm an autistic photographer? Does that inspire? I think from an outside view, I would think that was more inclusive, and I love that they can feel comfortable.
Yeah, it does. You know, because obviously when I got shortlisted, like I say, for the British Photography Awards, I didn't wave it around like a white flag, but I didn't tell them I was autistic until they actually saw my lanyard and everything when I was there in London. And they're like, oh, you're autistic? I went, yeah. But I said, you know, it's like my creative side is that of my autism side, but it's not a label to put on that said photo and how I created it that way.
So you would rather people see you as a photographer first than...
Yeah, it's the same thing when I've been on the other side of the camera modelling. It's like people wanted to sign me for autism, not my modelling and me and how I looked, and that really irritated me as well.
So you have experienced tokenism quite a lot,
Yeah.
this idea. Okay, yeah. And that's why I'm trying to be really careful with my language, because obviously I'm probably going to mess it up and people are going to hate me and I've said something wrong. I, as your friend, and when we've been out, I've seen you get not annoyed, but less impressed.
Right.
Yeah, that's what, when you have seen that people have perhaps been using that as a reason as to why they've behaved in a certain way that has affected others. I'm trying to be very polite when I say this, whereas you're like, that might be why, but that doesn't give you an excuse to do it. That you've been quite open about that, haven't you?
I'm very open about it. I talk about it on my channel a lot.
This, by the way, all of her channels will be in the description below, so make sure you go check them out. She's a massive advocate.
Follow me.
Come follow, yeah. So how, as say we were in a neurotypical environment, and I hate using that sort of idea because that is the default, isn't it? Neurotypical.
I was undiagnosed for 31 years.
Yeah.
So.
But if we were in a neurotypical environment and I wanted to make it more inclusive, now I mean, I can tell you how I try to make it more inclusive in my studio, but how would you like it to be made more inclusive? Not my studio, because I hope I did that quite well.
What, like a working environment?
Yeah, or like just from a photographic side. If you were, say you're a photographer and you were going to work with someone who might be autistic, and I mean, you wouldn't know for a start, because I'll just tell you what I do. I have a questionnaire that goes up for every shoot.
Autistics have radars. We know when autistic people are around us. We know. It's like the gay radar. This is an autistic radar. Like, you're autistic, aren't you? We know. We know.
So I have a questionnaire, don't I, that I send out, and it says, how can I make your session more comfortable? And I don't expect anyone to divulge any medical diagnosis or anything, but sometimes I'll get things like, could you not have any candles burning, low scent? Because sometimes that's triggers for people. And I kind of use that, and you really liked it when you got that, didn't you? And I know here that we don't have any smellies on or anything like that. And, you know, we like no radio or very little, very low, isn't it? But in terms of other photographers, obviously this is who might be listening. How could they maybe help to make the environment, one, more comfortable for clients who might be, but also perhaps working alongside people who might have similar diagnosis to yourself?
Well, there'll be some autistics that hate bright lights like myself. So probably dim it down a bit. Like I say, noise, sense, but it's all different. I can't tell you from somebody else's perspective being autistic.
In fact, that tells a lot. You need to not be cookie cutter with how you do it, right?
We're not linear. We're not all on one. You know, we're so different.
And I have to say, having worked with people who have identified, it is unique, but it's no more unique for me as another client coming in the door. So I do appreciate that people seem to think, oh, autistic people you can't all have flash. We're very careful with the flash with you, aren't we? Whereas another client, it's not the flash, it's the feel of the floor. So we have various floor coverings to put on for them. And it doesn't bother me. I mean,
if you want to distract them, there's these things in Poundland, they're disco balls that go around. If you want to put that on for 10 minutes for them to
Kerri, do you not remember the light bulb that used to be over there that we had for you? We had this light bulb, right, that was on a standard lamp, and it had a little mirror inside. It would go round, and we put it on for like 10, 15 minutes.
That's the only thing I love about Christmas. I don't celebrate it. It's the fairy lights. That's what I love about it.
So we used to have this, and it would make you ready for the shoot, didn't it? And now we've moved away from that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from just asking, but not in a pointed way. People shouldn't have to share their diagnosis with you.
I mean, if you've got one of them forms like Khandie has online, you can say, like, not do you have special needs or disability, say, is there anything you're comfortable or uncomfortable with, and write it in the wee box.
But that's what I have, isn't it? And I think people share that, and I have that on Studio Ninja. As soon as, this is not, it's sponsored by them or anything, but as soon as you get the book with me, it comes out to you and it says anything you can do to make your session more comfortable, you want your photographer to know to make it more comfortable. And also one of the things we help with is eye contact on some days isn't something you can do, is it? It's some days she can and some days can't. So thankfully for me, my camera auto focuses on her eyeball. So I can actually hold the camera and look away and click and know that A, it's in focus, but two, she's not seeing me and getting freaked out or feeling uncomfortable that you can't make eye contact with me. And I think that's a really nice thing.
That's built up over 6 years, hasn't it, dear? When I first met you, I was like, whoa.
I know, I used to say, could you look over here? And you'd be like looking left, right, but not at me. And it was fine. We worked with it. We rolled with it. That's it. We rolled with it, wasn't it? So has there been a time when you have felt accepted, or is there a space where you feel acceptance has happened? Or is it something you've had to work towards? You haven't just walked into one room and gone, I'm accepted, that's okay.
I don't know, for me, with the crypto and social anxiety, I can't do groups or any spaces, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah. It's quite, I know sometimes
It's
you've
me,
struggled.
myself and I.
How do you feel like being open? Do you like being open, but you don't want to be defined by that? How do you
I'm a
navigate?
very open book, as you all know. It's like I have this honest conversation series, and I talk about things that I've experienced, many different topics, and I would say it how it is, and I don't want to use the word, oh, my autism defines me, because it doesn't, and it's like I said, the struggles I've had in life. And now I'm an advocate, which I jumped on YouTube in 2022, and I was like, right, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to give you an experience of being an adult with no support, and the hell, the good, the bad, the ugly that I go through.
Do you think there's anything in your autism and ADHD that you definitely see has helped with your photography? I mean, I know you said you see like that, you see like Van Gogh and all this. Is there something you could say that categorically, yes, that I'm that good at that because of that? I don't know if that's the right language to use either.
I don't know. I don't think you should.
But you wouldn't know, would you? That's the bit I think.
I don't think I'm better than anyone else, and I've always said that. It's just like I'm just me doing me, and the people that, like, when I used to do my self-portraits in lockdown, and I put them on, my YouTube channel, and people couldn't believe I took that with a mobile phone, and that was like really nice. But it's just like, oh, that's brilliant. But for me, I don't see it. I'm thinking, okay, this is me, going through a meltdown. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus it on my photography.
Yeah.
And that's what I did in lockdown, because it changed. We were routine rigging. And when lockdown happened, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't do my shop. I can't do my normal get up and go. So I channeled that into self-portraits and just getting a cloth and backdrop on my door and going, a £5 ring light. And then,
I have to say, I find those type of questions where I say, is something down to your ADHD and autism that makes you a better photographer? I feel like that's like saying, oh, can you separate your neurotypical self from your neuroatypical self? And I'm like, you can't do that. That's such a stupid question to ask, isn't it?
Like, so
it is you.
I have dual needs. I have the best of both worlds. Well, that is just sarcasm. But I have dual needs. Autism wants routine, rigged, step by step. ADHD, oh, she's spontaneous. She's like, no, Kerri, let's be impulsive today. Let's do this. Let's just write off your autism routine altogether. And that's what I battle every day. That's why I'm so physically, mentally drained. And that's why at the end of the day, I've now channeled everything into my mobile photography and film photography, because that's what I do. If you notice on my analog culture page, I escape and go here, there and everywhere with my 3 different cameras I've got, and I just go.
Yeah, I feel like you've definitely found your groove in what makes you happy. But we have such interesting debates over this. And obviously I'm quite fiercely protective over you. When anyone says a bad comment, I'm like, let me at him.
But I'm Irish and ragey, so I'll come out with it anyway.
So if you wanted people to know one thing about you that wasn't obvious, what would it be?
Oh, God.
I know, it's like a date question on Blind Date. Listen, I prepped you with these. I was good. I prepped you with these.
I don't really know. I can't really answer that. I can't.
I would say what's not really obvious about you is, yes, you look lovely and you're very kind, but also you're incredibly passionate and forward when you know something's gone wrong or someone's been mistreated. Because sometimes, people, I know you avoid eye contact, and I know at times, and I know you sometimes go in on yourself, your social anxiety, but I've seen you get fired up if you think someone's mistreated somebody. And I think that's quite nice.
That's what I love about being an advocate. I decided to take on board to be an autistic advocate because I was going through the same thing, and I wanted to help adults out there like myself with no services, helping them, nothing, and you just fighting tooth and nail for everything, and every day's a battle. It's like, being a warrior and, unite and going, come here, then let's battle everyone. And I will do it. And I've got a great community on Twitter, and we share our highs, our lows and our woes, and we're there for each other, even though it's somebody across the pond. I mean, my Australian bestie, Mark, you know who you are, you created something for me.
Okay, and the last little thing, if you had one message to a fellow ADHD, have I said that right?
ADHD, yeah.
That one. Sorry, I will get the acronyms out, and I apologise profusely. I'm not offending anybody. I'm just my brain is messy today.
Do you want mine?
Do you know what? I realised just how stupid it was for me to say. If there was one message out there for someone who was similar to yourself, who was a photographer, what would you say to them to pursue their photography or to find them in themselves?
Well, I would say just be creative, do what you do, forget the negative comments, forget people doubting you, and just prove people wrong. You know, as I say, take a photograph and go, yeah, I've done it, and just do it. And if you need somebody like me, an advocate, to speak up for you, you can always email me. It's on my YouTube channel, and I will speak and be a voice for you. So come to my wee channel.
So this has been Khandie and Kerri, or Analog Vulture, or what else do we go? Sierra. On the Loud Lens. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that channel, and obviously follow her everywhere. Sloan, I love that. Thank you. I hope I said the right words. I was a bit worried I got all the language wrong, but hopefully it's worked.